Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. For the first time since standardized records began for tornadoes in January of 1950, a tornado has struck Adam-ondi-Ahman. This comes after the tornado last year in Independence, the closest one to have struck near the Temple Lot since 1950. On that same day, there was a tornado across the Mississippi River from Nauvoo. And this is after I reported that there was a tornado that struck really close to the Liberty Jail. It's definitely the closest tornado since 2003, and possibly the closest since 1950. It's hard to determine that one, but at least since 2003 for the Liberty Jail. So, and the day that this struck, the tornado that struck Adam-ondi-Ahman, was a very interesting day and possibly a sign of things to come. So this is how it played out. Whenever they're here or anywhere where there's tornadoes, I mean, I didn't have this kind of experience growing up because I grew up in Utah. I didn't really have to worry about tornadoes, I guess, except for 1999. But that was an outlier. When there are strong thunderstorms, you turn on the local coverage and you watch and wait. And I always like to look at the other storms in other areas in case there's a tornado at one of these sacred sites. This was June 10th, okay, of just a couple weeks ago, June 10th. And I was watching, and I did see that there was a tornado warning that was north of Jamesport, which is somewhat close to Adam-ondi-Ahman. But I guess I missed this part of the coverage. You can see that she's pointing directly at Adam-ondi-Ahman. Jameson is the closest town. It's just right on the north side of Adam-ondi-Ahman. Gallatin is probably the next closest town, I guess, and it's larger than Jameson. But Adam-ondi-Ahman is basically like right here. It's a large area, and she's pointing right to it. But I missed that on the 10th. I texted my friend Tamara. She lives up by Adam-ondi-Ahman, really close to there. And she sent me this picture of a tornado from her property. This is looking northeast. So this was not in the direction of Adam-ondi-Ahman from her house. But she saw a tornado with her own eyes. This is not the tornado that hit Adam-ondi-Ahman. It was one of three that were in that area. In Tamara, I think I've mentioned her on the channel before. This is her right here. This is the first time that I ever went to Adam-ondi-Ahman. This was in 2024. She had invited me and my family to come up from Kansas to stay at her house, and she took us to the church sites. She was the one that introduced me to Adam-ondi-Ahman, and I'm forever grateful for that because it is a very special place. But this is her. And really quick, before I show you all the pictures that I took of the damage and talk about why that date was special and the implications of this event, Tamara and her husband Jared, they have a couple websites that you may be interested in. This is wood from Adam-ondi-Ahman. They're not cutting down trees. This is reclaimed wood. They're allowed to do this. If you go to Our Heritage and then click on Adam-ondi-Ahman, they talk about Adam-ondi-Ahman and the different types of trees that are there. Osage, orange, ash, walnut, honey locust. But you can check this out, browse, shop. She is giving a discount. So the first 10 to make a purchase, if you use the code AOA for like Adam-ondi-Ahman, AOA, you'll get 10% off. Afterwards, if you use the code Jared, my name, Jared, you'll get 5% off. So this is a great way to connect with Adam-ondi-Ahman, and then she has other products. So this is one website, Wood Rings Workshop LLC, and then she has another one, Christian and Creative. She's also on my featured channels. She has a YouTube channel. She does music, but she has this online store, and this is her right here. So make sure to check her out. The link will be in the description box below, as well as the discount codes. Okay, so as far as she knew, or anyone really knew, the tornado had not necessarily hit Adam-ondi-Ahman. The one that she saw did not appear to have come close to Adam-ondi-Ahman. 6 days later, I went up there. I think it was just one of those days where I had to get out of the house, and we like to drive in the country, like to go to Adam-ondi-Ahman sometimes, far west and other places. And when I got to the Adam's Altar site on Tower Hill, I saw this downed branch. I didn't think too much of it. I decided to take a picture just in case, and I'm glad that I did. Um, Now, I don't know that the tornado made this branch fall. Uh, it may have just been wind damage from the storm system itself rather than the tornado. But I saw this and I was curious, but I just took a picture and that's all that I did. Um, and then later, just this last Sunday on Father's Day, what I wanted to do for Father's Day was to go to Adam-ondi-Ahman. It's a very peaceful place, and I feel so blessed to live so close to where I can go there often. And if you live here in Missouri, or you live, a couple hours away, please, you should come here and feel the spirit here. It's a sacred place. It's essentially the first temple site after Adam and Eve were driven from the Garden of Eden. As far as we know, this probably is the very first temple site. Not what I have on the screen right here. This is a modern structure, but so I wanted to go there on Father's Day, and I decided to go down this one little trail that goes to 3 different sites, including the Clayton Barlow home. And normally you have this path that just goes right by here. But on Father's Day, there was a tree that had fallen down on the path. You can see broken sticks and branches, and then the tree itself is right here. So it blocked the way, and I was like, okay, very interesting. There's more damage here than what I realized. I went back up after walking around for a while. I went back up to the parking area. I saw this tree that had snapped in half, and that does look like it's recent. And when I got to the car, as we were about to leave, there was one of the missionaries that drove up. And we talked for a little bit, and it's always such a good experience talking with the Adam-ondi-Ahman missionaries. But he mentioned how a tornado had hit Adam-ondi-Ahman. I wish I remember all the details. The way that he described it is that it started in one location and then it skipped and then hit another location and skipped and hit another one. I don't know if that's exactly what happened. I think there were 3 separate tornadoes, but maybe it was the same tornado for all I know. He said something to the effect that it had damaged one of the homes, one of the missionaries' homes. It wasn't major damage, but I think he had said something like that. But I was like, okay, so there was a tornado at Adam-ondi-Ahman. That's huge because, like I said, before this point, I'd already looked. And since standardized records began in 1950, there has not been a tornado at Adam-ondi-Ahman. I'll show you the map in just a minute. So this is potentially big. And the first thing that I had on my mind was the fact that last year there was that closest tornado to the temple lot, the same one that hit the Temple Engineering Company on Truman Road. And it happened right as Community of Christ was having their world conference. They were in session in the auditorium. And then, like I said, the Liberty Jail tornado just a couple weeks ago. So I had to find this out for sure. I didn't want to make a video just based on what the missionary said. I needed to make sure. And I went to Grok and found out that the National Weather Service, they have these tornado reports and they give you the exact coordinates of where the tornado starts and where it ends. And so I went through here and I found the three tornadoes. And this is the one right here. This is the one that hit Adam-ondi-Ahman. You can do this yourself. Just use Google Earth, or that's probably your best bet. That's what I use, Google Earth. Just put in these coordinates. Okay, this one's the start location. This one's the end location. And I'll show you what that looks like on the map in just a minute. I decided, no, let's do it right now. Okay, sorry. Oh, do I need to reload it? Of course I do. Trying to embarrass me while I'm making a YouTube video. Okay, so this is the Adam-ondi-Ahman area. I'm going to turn on a polygon that I created that is the area that I know that the church owns. The church may own more than this. This is just what I know for sure that the church owns. The church may own much more than this. But this yellow area right here, this is Adam-ondi-Ahman. The tornado that Tamara saw, I believe, is this one, because if she was looking northeast, it would be along this track. There was another tornado to the west that was shorter, but then you have this one in between those two that went into Adam-ondi-Ahman. It didn't go like to Spring Hill, or at least not like the important part of Spring Hill where you have like the Spring Hill Summit or where the city was being built, the temple site. You have Tower Hill right here. And then this is the valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman. So the tornado did not go there, but it did go on the property that's owned by the church, which constitutes Adam-ondi-Ahman. I don't know the future of Adam-ondi-Ahman. There was supposed to be a city there. Hypothetically, if that city had been built, then where the tornado went probably would have been within the city limits of that city. And if a city is built in the future, no doubt the city will expand to where the tornado hit on the 10th. So it went through here. And here's one of the missionary houses right here. That's probably the one that was affected by the tornado. And then there's Jameson. Okay, so after I confirmed this, I decided to go back up there and see if I could spot any damage. Again, it may not be from the tornado itself, although tornadoes can they can go along different paths. It's not like they don't have to go along a perfectly straight path. So maybe some of it is from the tornado. I have no idea. I don't have a way to confirm that. All I know is that it started over here and then it ended in Adam-ondi-Ahman. But maybe it's possible that it kind of like curved down here and then went up here rather than going in a straight line. So all right, so as we were driving in, I saw this. This was as we were about to get to Tower Hill, just a branch, and you can see, it has some dead leaves on here. I don't know how long it's been there, but it seemed like this probably happened recently. But I decided to beyond that, all the rest of the pictures that I took, I limited it to trees and branches that were obviously snapped recently. Just when you look at the color of the wood, I don't think that this is old because over time, this would probably darken. It looks like it's a fresh snap. Um, so we have this. Here's like another tree that was snapped. And then here's, looks like this might be just a branch. I'm not sure, but you can see that that looks pretty recent. Here's another one. This entire tree, and the picture doesn't really do it justice. This was a pretty large tree. It seems that this was a result of the recent winds because you can see that there's these leaves over here that are growing, and you can see these like other parts of it that are recently snapped. Like you see these like lighter color areas. So I feel pretty confident that this whole tree went down with this recent event. Um, this is up at the Spring Hill area, so close to where the city was being built when the Saints were here. And then this one, this looks similar to what I saw in Liberty, where there had been a tree that fell across the road, and whoever, emergency workers or whoever, um, hurried and got chainsaws and cut it up and to unblock the road. I think that's what happened here. This is a picture taken from Missouri 13. It's um, it's this road right here that goes along the east side of Adam-ondi-Ahman. It was, you know, around here somewhere. Okay, so I have a bunch of other pictures, but they're like smaller, not so obvious, and you get the idea. It's not like there was like a ton of damage at Adam-ondi-Ahman, but you do have trees that were downed, trees that were snapped in half, and then large branches that were snapped off. Here's the map, okay, that has all the tornadoes since records were standardized January of 1950. Okay, we're looking at, so here is Jameson. It's that small town that's right on the north side of Adam-ondi-Ahman. Here's Gallatin. And Adam-ondi-Ahman is this area right here. And you can see there are no dots. These dots and lines, they represent tornadoes. There's none. Now, this goes from January 1950 to February 28th, 2026. I'm not aware of any other tornado events since February of this year, other than the one that we're talking about. So I'm pretty sure that this is the only tornado that has hit this area since records were standardized January 1950. So this is not something that happens every day. This is very rare. And it's interesting timing, especially when we think about what happened last year in Independence, in Nauvoo, and then this year with the Liberty Jail. That just seems really unlikely to me. There is another map right here. It it seems to have some different information, like a little bit. But even on this map, there are no tornadoes. This is Here's the valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman right here, right above where it says Davies, right here. Okay, so this is what happened. Um, in case, I don't know if you've been to Adam-ondi-Ahman before, but as you're going to Tower Hill, you pass this sign for Spring Hill Summit. Um, you can either go to the left or go to the right. And so if you go to the right and go up this way a little ways, that's where the tornado hit. I'll put the link for this video in the description box in case you want to check this out. This is from my other channel called Explore Church Sites. And here's the sign, like the entrance sign on the north side of Adam-ondi-Ahman. It's not the main entrance, and so it's not the main sign, but this is what it looks like up there. Okay, as to the day that it hit, I find this absolutely fascinating. We're looking at the Church History Library website, research guide for General Conference. And let's go down to this part, Conference Sessions FAQ. And we have this one. When was the first General Conference? Now let's think about this. General Conference is when the entire church all across the world gathers together to listen to church leadership, to listen to the prophet, the apostles, general authorities, and general officers of the church. It's a big meeting, a big worldwide meeting of the church. When was the first General Conference? The first meeting of all church members was held Wednesday, June 9th, 1830. This tornado struck not on June 9th. This June 9th of this year was the 196th anniversary of General Conference. You may or may not know, but we've talked about it on the channel before. General Conference has not always been in the current format that it is now, in April and October. Um, I can't remember. I have it on my spreadsheet somewhere, but I don't think it became like that until like the 70s. Anyway, back then, the very first conference, June 9th, 1830. So we so you have the 196th anniversary of General Conference, and the day after is when we have this one and only tornado that hits Adam-ondi-Ahman since January 1950, and possibly longer for all anybody knows. It reminds me of something else that happened. Um, so let me turn this on. Let's see. By the way, the link for my Google Earth map, if you want to look at this yourself, the link is in the description box of each video. Let's turn on the eclipses. So you'll remember in 2017, on President Monson's 90th birthday, we had the first total solar, like the first great American, again, the first of two great American total solar eclipses. And this one happened to go over all the Missouri church sites. You see all these red place markers? These are all the historic sites here in Missouri, with the exception of this one in South Kansas City. But Independence, Far West, all these other places, and then Adam-ondi-Ahman right here. Look how close the border comes. The upper limit of the path of totality to Adam-ondi-Ahman. But then we had another eclipse, the second great American eclipse, that came about 7 years later. And the path of totality for that one went over the Sacred Grove and Fayette and historic sites in New York. And it also went over the Kirtland Temple that had been purchased the month before. This eclipse happened the day after General Conference, and I was there to document it. I was in Kirtland for this event. I watched General Conference in Ohio, and the next day went to the Kirtland Temple, took a tour under its new ownership, and like an hour or two after the tour, something like that, we had the eclipse. It was the day after General Conference. So I see a similarity in what just happened with this tornado. The 196th anniversary of General Conference, which is a conference where the whole church gets together. And the day after this anniversary, we had the first ever tornado, at least since 1950, in Adam-ondi-Ahman. And it makes me think about what, at the time, Elder Jeffrey R. Holland said. This was the October 2006 General Conference. And I feel like this was a hint. As prophets have done in dispensations from Adam down to the present day, President Hinckley has figuratively gathered us in a kind of global equivalent of the valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman. has loved us and taught us and bestowed upon us his blessing. I'm not going to get into all the different ways that I think that Adam-ondi-Ahman could take place. Um, we've talked about the fact, just in short, we've talked about the fact that uh, Elder Bruce R. McConkie and others have said that it's most likely going to be broken up into different sessions. It's not just going to be necessarily a one-time thing. We've also talked about the fact that Christ is going to go to various conferences throughout the world. Bruce R. McConkie talks about that in Millennial Messiah. We've also talked about the fact that not everybody is going to go to Adam-ondi-Ahman. So there's a lot of questions about how it's going to happen and if you're even going to be aware of it. Maybe some of the sessions actually take place during General Conference, and in that way we participate. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if General Conference and the meeting of Adam-ondi-Ahman are somehow the same thing or coincide whenever it takes place. But we have this from Elder Holland, and we have this tornado that struck the day after the 196th anniversary of the first General Conference. Now, let's look back to August 11th, 1999. There was a highly unusual tornado that struck downtown Salt Lake. It touched Temple Square in the Salt Lake Temple. Very unusual, very strange. This was just a few months before the year 2000 began. And in my opinion, I think that this may have been a sign of things to come. And it may have been pointing to the year 2000. The year 2000 could be the year that the seventh seal was opened. We've talked about the seventh seal, and I feel like there's enough to suggest that that really could be when it opened. I can't say that for sure. But what I can say for sure is that we had all these big events happen in the year 2000. In the year that followed this tornado in downtown Salt Lake. The Living Christ document was put out on January 1st. And then in April, it was the first time that General Conference was held in the Conference Center. And during General Conference, the video series of the Special Witnesses of Christ, where all the 15 apostles, they had like a pre-recorded, like their Special Witness of Christ, and it was put together as a series of videos. That was released. The Palmyra, New York temple was dedicated. President Hinckley described that temple as perhaps the most important temple in the church because of its proximity to the sacred grove. It was also the 77th house of the Lord that was dedicated. Ricks College, it was announced that it would become BYU Idaho. The year 2000, in September, was the first time that we had more non-English speaking members in the church than English speaking. October 1st, the 100th temple of the church was dedicated. The Boston, Massachusetts temple. President Hinckley said he wanted to have 100 temples in operation by the end of the year 2000. The Main Street Plaza that connects the Temple Square with the church office building block was opened. So for the first time, those two blocks were connected by the Main Street Plaza. In the October General Conference, the conference center was dedicated, even though we had conference in April that year, and there was a Hosanna shout. And then we had these things that took place in 2000, in 2001. And President Hinckley said that Joel chapter 2, verses 28 to 32 were fulfilled. That's one of the scriptures that the angel Moroni quoted to Joseph Smith when he was visiting him in his home, when he appeared those 3 times. President Hinckley said that this was fulfilled. Okay, so with what has happened in Independence, okay, let's get into that really quick. So this was video that I took on the day that the tornado struck Independence. It's the tornado that hit the company called Temple Engineering, as Community of Christ was having their 2025 World Conference, the conference in which they were ordaining their very first female prophet president, Stacey D. Cram. This is her right here. I was there on the day that she was ordained and got to meet her. There was this tornado, the closest to the temple lot since 1950. That was a crazy day. And then we talked about the Liberty Jail and Liberty. Again, it doesn't seem that like this damage right here was caused by the tornado itself. It may just have been from the strong winds that came with that storm. But when we look at the tornado track, it seems to have been the closest one. Let me turn off the eclipses here. It seems like it may have been the closest one, or it definitely seems like it's the closest one since 2003. This 2003 tornado may be the closest since 1950. But the one that happened this year could actually be the one that was the closest since 1950, but definitely since 2003. And then down here is the Independence tornado. And there's Temple Engineering. And over here is the temple lot, just right over here. Okay, let's see. So the last thing I want to talk about is, if this is a sign of some sort, is it pointing to the future? Do all signs point to the future? I don't know. I do. Of course I know. Okay. Signs can do one of three things. And I have it all on this spreadsheet right here. This spreadsheet is called Signs, Past, Present, and Future. I wanted to answer the question, whenever there's a sign, does it always point to the future? And no, that's not necessarily the case. So in column D, I have all these different scriptures that talk about signs. And then if it's a sign that had to do that the way that you're supposed to use it is you look in the past. It's something that happened in the past. Okay, I'm like falling apart at the end of this video here. Okay, so let me just read what I put. So if it's in red, it's a sign that happened in the past, and the sign already appeared for something in the past, and it spiritually benefits me now. So you look back. So for example, you have this Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 through 9. This is where Aaron, let's see. And Moses answered and said, behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, the Lord hath not appeared unto thee. And the Lord said unto him, what is in thine hand? And he said, a rod. And he said, cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. Okay, so this is a sign that when we read it today, it happened in the past, but it's meant for us in the future. It's not pointing to something in the future. We look back, and it's like a confirmation that Moses was a true prophet. And of course, at the time that Moses did this, it was a sign for him right then and there. So it was something for the present, but it was also something for people in the future to look back to the past and know that it was a true sign. And then you do have signs that are meant for the future. I'm not going to go through all these. Mosiah 3:15, and many signs and wonders and types and shadows showed he unto them concerning his coming. So talking about his first coming, there would be signs, wonders, and so forth. So this tornado that hit Adam-ondi-Ahman, I'm not aware of anything that happened as that was happening. Like it's a sign of something that's happening right now. I don't think that that's the case. It may be the type of sign that we look back, like once we're in the future, we look back in time and we're like, oh my gosh, it happened on this day. And maybe there's going to be further significance to that day than what we currently realize. Or it could be something that's pointing forward to the future. Maybe it's like the the downtown Salt Lake tornado, if I'm thinking about this the right way, I feel like this tornado could have highlighted and pointed forward to everything that was about to happen in the years 2000 and 2001. And maybe just the whole, millennium. It could have been a type of sign for the millennium. But that's basically it. So I think this is pretty incredible. It's amazing that all these things have happened since I moved here and I get to document it, go take my own pictures of these things that have happened and video as well. But that's the news. So this happened on June 10th, the day after the 196th anniversary of the First General Conference. The first time a tornado has struck Adam-ondi-Ahman since records were standardized in January 1950. I don't know what it means, but taking all of this together, it seems like it's beyond coincidence. All right, well, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.